I wanted to follow up briefly on the settlements as well. We had a recent settlement that was announced last week for the blue and blue shooting Detective Grant for $6.5 million. I actually was doing some research about another issue and came across a story that ran in the USA Today last year. And you might remember it when it said, the title in the USA Today was Before Ferguson, there was Albuquerque. You gave a quote there that said, I believe there are people in the force who shouldn't be there. And the follow-up was that the chief said the city simply may be unable to remove problem officers. I realized that was sort of early in this process. But since then, we've had a $5 million settlement in the Boyd shooting, $6.5 million in the Detective Grant shooting, now $240,000 or so last week for the UNM student who lost a testicle in those cases. My question sort of is, in the case of the UNM student, for instance, when you reviewed the lapel, did you review the lapel camera in your administrative review of that case? Did you review
Council President and Councilor Davis, yes, I did.
And I mean, after watching that video, Chief, did you determine that force was appropriate in that particular case with that officer?
Council President Lewis and Councilor Davis, I made a determination that the officer made several mistakes in that incident. Since that incident is still in review and still a matter of a criminal case, I have a potential to be called as a witness in that case, so I think I would need to be fair to the process.
I appreciate that, but again, speaking of that, in reviewing the shooting of Mr. James Boyd in the foothills, did you review the videotape before you declared that shooting justified at the press conference, the first press conference around that?
Council President Lewis and Councilor Davis, I did not review the entire videos, no sir.
This is my, Chief, I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, I'm trying to make a point. I think that I'm concerned that we have a process in place to make the department better and to improve our systems of accountability. And I understand the frustration that we do have at some point have had officers on the department that should not be there. What I'm concerned about is that as a new chief now taking over and from inheriting a system that you didn't create, that at least two high-profile places where your internal affairs process came to you for you to make a decision about appropriateness, it seems that you in that process failed to identify actions that prosecutors and judges now in two different cases have identified as potentially criminal. And instead, in the first case, recommended a suspension, but not a recommendation to the academy, and no criminal prosecution. In the Boyd case, you ruled justified without any type of criminal activity, without any type of recognizing potential criminal activity that a judge has done. I'm concerned that our process is not, I'm concerned that despite this council's efforts to resource better civilian police oversight that rebuilds trust from the community, that the team that's looking at the system and using it to decide what's working and what's not in our department, the team is not seeing the problems that are leading to these settlements. And I get to my point of that's why I'm concerned. That's about 11 and some change $1 million settlements in the past year that we've been able to see for police misconduct. Based on the city's revenue forecast and revenue for the past year, we're taking in about $9 million a week in recurring funding. Every person in the city of Albuquerque, every time they look at a receipt, can take a whole week's worth of spending just to pay for police settlements that we seem to not be able to identify as problematic. That's concerning to me that even though we have new leadership in the department, it's not picking up on those big red flags. And I'm concerned that those settlements will continue. And quite frankly, we need that money to put back into the recruiting for the 911 officers and for the police officers and the equipment that we need. And so I'm hoping that the council will, and thank you for indulging me in this. It's been a little while since I've talked about police stuff. But I hope this council will indulge us in taking a serious look at whether we have the right process in place and through the budget process, whether we have the right systems in place. And Chief, if you want to respond, I'm frustrated to see that we're not picking up on stuff that's leading to settlements that perhaps could have been prevented had we just been honest and said, I see a problem here.